I want you to imagine a graduation day. It's a warm May afternoon, and you're sitting in a folding chair on a manicured lawn. You see your son or daughter walk across that stage. They're wearing the cap and gown, they're smiling, and you feel that incredible, swelling sense of pride. You did it. You got them through. You've handed them the keys to a future at a prestigious name-brand university. But as the applause fades, there's a quiet, cold weight settling in your stomach. Because to pay for this moment, you've stopped contributing to your 401k for the last 4 years. You've taken out a Parent Plus loan that's larger than your first mortgage. You're 52 years old, and for the first time in your life, you don't actually know when or if you'll ever be able to stop working. We need to talk about a very specific, very modern kind of heartbreak. It's the silent crisis of the good parent. It's the trap of believing that the greatest gift you can give your child is an elite education, even if it costs you your own financial soul. We've been told a story for decades that if we don't give our children the absolute best, the most expensive zip code, the private sports coaching, and eventually the most prestigious degree, we've failed them. But I want to challenge that today. I want to suggest that in our desperate rush to give our children a head start, we are accidentally handing them the heaviest burden a child can ever carry, a parent who has nothing left. Think about the way we talk about college. We treat it like a moral imperative rather than a financial decision. When your child is 17 or 18, the social pressure is immense. You're at dinner with friends and someone asks where your daughter is going. There is a specific kind of status attached to saying the name of a private, out-of-state school. It feels like a badge of honor for the parent. It says, "Look at how well I've provided." But have you ever noticed that nobody asks how that education is being funded? Nobody asks if that prestigious degree is being bought with the parent's retirement security. Most of us aren't being reckless. We aren't trying to show off. We just love our kids. We remember our own struggles, or maybe we remember the doors that were closed to us because of where we went to school, and we want to break that cycle. We want them to have the best. But the best has a price tag that has outpaced inflation by double, triple, quadruple over the last few decades. We are using 1980s logic to solve a 2024 problem. Back then, you could work a summer job and pay for a semester. Today, that's a fantasy. The reality is that your 40s and 50s are your peak earning years, but they are also your last window for meaningful compounding. As we've discussed before, a dollar invested at 45 works so much harder than a dollar invested at 55. When you take $40,000 or $50,000 a year out of your investment stream to pay for a private university, you aren't just spending that money, you are destroying the future versions of those dollars. You're trading $1 million of your future self's security for 4 years of a specific brand of education for your child. I want to introduce a concept that might feel a little uncomfortable. It's the idea of the intergenerational liability. When a child graduates from an elite school with no debt because their parents paid for everything, that child feels free. They start their career, they get married, they buy a home. But 20 years later, when that child is in their 40s and trying to save for their own kids' future, they realize their parents have no savings. They realize their parents can't afford their medications, or their property taxes, or the assisted living facility they now need. Suddenly, that free degree becomes the most expensive thing that child ever received. They are now financially responsible for 2 generations, their children and their parents. Is that actually a gift? Is it a gift to give your child a debt-free degree at 22, only to hand them your financial instability at 42? I've seen this play out in so many families. The parents feel like heroes in the short term, but they become a source of immense anxiety in the long term. The child lives with a constant low-grade guilt. They see their parents struggling, and they know deep down that their education is part of the reason why. It changes the holiday dinners. It changes the way they make their own career choices. They can't take risks because they might need to catch their parents when they fall. There's a different way to look at this. It requires a shift in our psychology. It requires us to redefine what a good parent actually is. What if the greatest gift you could give your child wasn't a degree from a school with a famous football team, but the gift of never having to worry about you? What if the most loving thing you could do was to ensure that you are financially independent until the day you die? When you have your own financial house in order, when your retirement is fully funded, your house is paid off, and you have that calm confidence we talk about, you give your child a psychological freedom that no elite degree can buy. You give them the ability to live their own life without looking over their shoulder. You give them a parent who can be a grandparent, not a dependent. You give them the ability to take their own risks, knowing that they don't have to be your safety net. This changes the conversation you have with your child when they're 17. It moves the conversation from where do you want to go to what can we afford together. This isn't about being mean or withholding. It's about being an adult. It's about teaching them the very thing you're trying to achieve: financial responsibility and deliberate living. I know it feels like you're letting them down when you say no to the expensive private school. I know the look on their face might stay with you, but you have to remember that your child is an appreciating asset. They have 40 years of earning power ahead of them. They have the most valuable resource in the world on their side. You, on the other hand, are a depreciating earning asset. Your window to earn is closing. You cannot take out a loan for retirement. There are no scholarships for being 75 and broke. Applying this in real life doesn't mean you give your kids nothing. It means you apply the oxygen mask rule. You put yours on first. You sit down and you run the math. You look at your retirement projections honestly. If paying for that school means you stop saving, or worse, you dip into what you've already saved, then that school is off the table. Practicality looks like embracing the state school. It looks like celebrating the community college path for the first 2 years. It looks like having an honest, transparent conversation with your teenager about the reality of money. You might think they're too young to understand, but teenagers are incredibly perceptive. When you explain to them that you want to be able to take care of yourself so they don't have to, they don't see a cheap parent, they see a parent who loves them enough to be responsible. There's a beautiful middle ground here. Maybe you pay for what a state school would cost, and if they want the $80,000 a year private experience, they find a way to bridge that gap through scholarships or their own calculated debt. You become a partner in their education, not a martyr for it. By involving them in the trade-offs, you're giving them a better education in real life than any economics professor ever could. I want you to think back to that 75-year-old version of yourself. You're sitting on that same porch we talked about before. In one version of the future, you're anxious. You're wondering if you can afford to keep the heat on this winter, and you're waiting for your child to call so you can subtly ask for help. There's a tension in your relationship because you both know the score. In the other version, you're sitting there in total peace. Your child calls just to tell you about their day. They're not worried about you. They're telling you about the promotion they got or the house they're looking at. They're thriving because they're standing on the solid ground you built. You're not a burden to them. You're an inspiration. You showed them how to live within their means, how to prioritize the future, and how to be truly independent. That peace of mind, that lack of friction in your relationship with your adult children, that is the true inheritance. It's not the name on the diploma, it's the stability of the family. If you're in your 40s right now and you're feeling the pressure to mortgage your future for your kids' present, I want you to take a breath. It's okay to put yourself first. It's not selfish, it's the most selfless thing you can do for their long-term happiness. You don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to provide a cinematic, debt-free college experience to be a great parent. Progress is just being a little more honest today than you were yesterday. It's looking at the numbers instead of the brochures.
Your kids don't need a parent who gave them everything at 22 and then needed everything back at 62. They need a parent who is free, and you deserve to be that parent. Take a look at your plan. Talk to your spouse. Talk to your kids. You might find that when you take the pressure of perfection off the table, you find something much better. A future where everyone is secure, everyone is independent, and the only thing you're sharing is the joy of each other's company. And that, in the end, is what actually matters.